Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let the record reflect that all members of the Board of Supervisors are present this morning in chambers. I'm going to turn to the County Council and see if we have any additions or corrections to our closed session agenda this morning.
There are no additions or corrections.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to turn to the public and see if we have any public comment on this morning's closed session agenda, which consists of two items, items A and B. We'll invite folks to come forward in room first, and folks via Zoom to join us by raising their hand or using the *9 function via landline to be recognized. We'll go to in room first. Mr. Cheshire, floor is yours.
As supervisors and staff, Ron Cheshire, resident of the 5th District. At Friday's legislative meeting that you had, Congressman Panetta warned of extreme legislation coming from Washington, D.C. Well, we have our own version of that here in California and locally now. What if I was to tell you that upwards of billions of dollars and hundreds of lives have been lost in accidents, and it has never been addressed? It's never been addressed and such. And it's too bad. But the Christmas tree industry in this country has killed a lot of people and caused a lot of damage. Now, I hope you see the absurdity to that to some extent, but, I wanted to go on and say, well, maybe we should have legislation where you should be allowed to vote on whether there's a Christmas tree growing area in your neighborhood or in your county. Or if they can guarantee that there will never be a fire and such. I hope cooler heads prevail in regards to what's going on at Moss Landing. I understand the need for elected officials to represent their constituency, but knee-jerk reactions have to be avoided. There's a power outage that hit last night at the house, and I know it still affects Seaside. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. We need to move forward. I don't want to have to go to the store and buy a big box of candles to eat dinner by. We are the technological center of the world. We need to move forward. I know you're level-headed people.
Thank you.
Think rationally. Let's move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody via Zoom? Okay, no hands up via Zoom. We'll go ahead and close public comment on our closed session agenda and recess to closed session. We'll reconvene here in chambers at 10:30 a.m. Reconvene the Board of Supervisors into open session. Let the record reflect that all members of the board are present. We'll give him a second to get us on the right screen here. There we go. Perfect. We're going to open with the announcement of the interpreter. Diego.
Muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Diego Celis. Seré su intérprete en español para la reunión de hoy. Si usted está planeando hacer un comentario público y necesita servicio de intérprete, por favor hablar lenta y suficientemente fuerte para que yo lo escuche. Favor de hacer una pausa al final de sus oraciones para asegurarse de que tengo la oportunidad de interpretarle. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Diego. Luis, do you mind leading us this morning in the pledge?
The honor to. You all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Yes. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn to the clerk to see if we have any additions or corrections to today's agenda.
No additions or corrections.
All right, given that, we're going to head into our consent calendar. Today we have items 8 through 18. Is there a member of this board who wishes to pull an item from consent for comment or alternative action? Seeing no hands, we'll go to the public, see if there's any member of the public who wishes to pull an item from consent for comment. I see nobody coming forward in room. No hands up via Zoom?
No via Zoom.
Okay, given that, I've got a motion from Alejo. Is there a second? I'll take a second from Askew. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Measure carries. Thank you. With that, we're going to head into our general public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to share comment regarding items not on today's agenda, but within the purview of this body, we invite folks to come forward in room or raise your hand via Zoom using *9 via landline or going down into your reactions tab at the bottom of your screen to hit the raise hand function. I see nobody coming forward in room. Do I have any hands up via Zoom?
None via Zoom.
Okay. No hands up via Zoom. We'll go ahead and close our public comment and jump into our first scheduled matter and our only scheduled matter this morning, which is a presentation from Craig Spencer, our Director of HCD, on planning and construction permitting process. And we're calling this a workshop. So, Mr. Spencer, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Supervisors. Craig Spencer with Housing and Community Development, providing an overview and update on housing and community development within the County of Monterey. Here we go. Some of this presentation will be looking back at the year 2024, the calendar year, not the fiscal year, as well as bringing us up to date on where we are today in early 2025. We have had some pretty big accomplishments, some challenges, some vacancies that I'll talk about, some staff changes, and some streamlining efforts we're working on moving forward, as well as continuing to keep up with a number of those things on our list of measures that we're trying to accomplish. I talked about some challenges. We had a number of unanticipated leaves in 2024. Those leaves we absorbed in-house to the best of our ability. We also provided some consultant support, brought in a consultant to help us move some things forward while we had some absences. That included in our planning division and in our building plans check team. So we had some longer than usual wait times. We did get some consultant support to reduce those wait times and are hoping to reduce them further moving forward. Just despite some of those leaves and challenges, we did accomplish a large amount of work, particularly within our long-range or advanced planning team programs. We had 2 agricultural employee housing projects permitted and under construction now. We had 7 appeals before the board of lower decisions on applications. The vacation rental ordinance was a big one. Several other ordinances and updates, pilot programs, general plan implementation items, Carmel Lagoon and Scenic Road Protective Structure EIR, And we made progress on a number of other things, including last week, bringing forward the accessory dwelling unit regulations for the coastal zone. As I mentioned, we have been attempting to reduce vacancy rates within state HCD with filling positions. In January of 2024, we had about a 17% vacancy rate. As of January 2025, we had about a 12% vacancy rate, although this continues to evolve on a regular basis. We are still trying to recruit. We do have a number of positions open that we're in need of, and we've requested and obtained some exemptions to hire from the hiring freeze that's in place. Looking at our overall structure within HCD, we have our administration and oversight. Myself, the director, officially became director in 2024, vacating the chief of planning position that I was holding. We managed to fill that position. That vacated a principal planner position, which I'll get into. We're also beginning to open for recruitment for an ombudsperson position within our department. We're fairly stable in the rest of our chiefs and division staff management. We do have development services, or the building department, including code enforcement, planning services, including current planning and long-range planning efforts, our permit center services, our housing program, and our support staff. Within the building division, we have the staff you see here, about 22 folks in our plan check, building inspection, and code compliance sections. We have engineering services, which includes our encroachment and traffic and address teams, and our environmental services division, which mostly deals with floodplain and drainage items in the county. That team in 2024 processed over 3,500 building permit applications. Again, because of some unexpected absences, we had increased the wait times for building plan check to about 12 weeks. Using consultant support, we did bring that back down to closer to 6 weeks, and have the staff that were on leave back, so we hope to maintain higher levels of service there moving forward. The inspection staff within the building services division completed more than 23,000 building inspections, and that's typically a 1 to 2 day turnaround from when someone requests an inspection to when we have an inspector out at the site to schedule. It's a little bit dependent on where you are. So certain parts of Big Sur may have certain days on which we schedule inspections, but generally about 1 to 2 days. In our code compliance, we have over 2,700 open cases, and for the first time in many years, any years that I know of, we actually closed more cases than we opened, but for example, we opened 665 new cases in 2024. And then we closed about 700. We also did 500 encroachment permit reviews and inspections, and over 150 special event permits reviews on this team. Next team within HCD is the Housing and Community Development, or Permit Center operations. This is our front counter staff, our call center, our records and file room, our planning and development services support staff, and management analysts. We did hire a supervising planner, which has helped our front counter operations. And there's about 29 folks on this particular side of our operations. That team assisted more than 7,000 visits to our front counter in 2024. Our support staff responded to over 1,900 public records requests in 2024. Our call center answered more than 26,000 phone calls, and our support staff also helped with all of our operations and various support things that happen for documents and data entry and organization. Moving along to our housing and finance sections and our secretary team, we have 4 positions within our housing program with 1 vacancy, 6 on our finance team, and 6 within our secretary team with 2 vacancies and a management specialist. The 3 folks in our housing have overseen more than 100 loans with over $19 million in balances, as well as the CDBG program, the California Development Block Grant program, our local and permanent housing trust funds, and they help oversee and manage Kent's Court, including recovery after the Pajaro floods. Our secretary team, which currently has 2 vacancies, they support staff and notice, distribute reports, and do all things for 25 different boards, committees, and commissions, including planning commission, zoning administrator, a lot of land use advisory committees, historic review boards, airport land use commissions, and more. Our support staff helps us balance our budget, track our time, do our accounting work, helps with all our contract services and bills payable, and more, and all of our time cards. And so that staff does quite a bit as well. Finally, within HCD, we have the Planning Services Division. Planning Services Division, we're currently recruiting for planning management. We've got the long-range planning or advanced planning side of that team. We've got the current planning side, which includes condition compliance, and which is about 21 people within that staff. We have over 600 active planning permits. Those are not long-range planning, but current planning items with people who are seeking to build something somewhere. We initialized more than 350 in new applications in 2024 and brought over 200 to a hearing through one of our decision-making processes. On our long-range team, we have a list of over 100 items that we're trying to get to. Those are things that are either legally mandated by state law, federal law, or general plan implementation, or referrals from the Board of Supervisors, or other things of that sort. A lot of them were on the accomplishments list of things that we did accomplish in the past year. There's still a lot of room for improvement within HCD. We have been working on a number of things for how we can improve our processes, and we are open and receptive to feedback. We are in the process of eliminating a step within the planning review, which would be eliminating the application checklist process for residential development or single-family residential development. We have a number of other things, including just making better use of technology, filling some vacancies, training our staff, and identifying other efficiency measures that we are actively working on and hope to advance in 2025. That is an overview of our housing and community development for 2024 up to today. Today, we're just asking that you receive the report for this workshop and provide direction to staff as appropriate. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. We'll go to members of the board first, see if there's any input. I'm going to go to Supervisor Daniels.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Spencer, for that for the presentation, and I will definitely say, like, just as my time in District 5 working in government and now as the supervisor, I hear more about the planning department and housing community development than probably any other issue. So I really appreciate the very detailed presentation. One question I have just watching the presentation is it looks like of all the divisions that you went over and you went through, there's vacancies throughout, but the vacancies in the planning services division, are those greater than other divisions, or do you think it's sort of equal throughout in terms of the vacancies you're experiencing?
We have a much higher turnover. The planning team is a harder to recruit for and harder to retain position within HCD than probably any other position. It is a difficult job. It's there's a lot of work, a lot of deadlines, a lot of pressures involved. So we do have higher than usual changes happening. We had one vacancy for most of 2024. We filled several earlier in the year. And it's ever evolving. So we have some more vacancies as of 2025 now that we need to address.
And just to follow up on that question through the chair, do you believe that the vacancy challenges that we have in Monterey County are reflected throughout the state, or do you think it's a problem that's unique to Monterey County?
Anecdotally, I've heard from other jurisdictions that it is difficult to recruit, particularly at the more senior levels, for planners throughout the state. So I do think that there is some struggles. There are probably things unique about Monterey County. That the cost of living and the amount of work and the difficulty of the planning task within Monterey County, including our rules, complex rules and regulations, coastal versus inland, and a lot of things, a lot of steps, a lot of controversy that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. That's not to say other jurisdictions don't have that, but we have that in spades.
So through the chair, I have one more question. And thank you for that, Mr. Spencer. But the prioritization of ordinances, how do you engage in that process, prioritizing which ordinances your long-range planning staff is going to focus on? And then specifically, if you could address the housing element, because that one is of particular concern. I think we have perhaps half a dozen builder's remedy projects in District 5 right now as a result of the delay. So how does a delay like that happen so we can be very clear about it as we plan for the future?
Yeah. So prioritizing our long-range work program, we have 5 staff on our long-range team. Housing element is our top priority within that team. Part of how we go about prioritizing is what is legally mandated. Housing element update is legally mandated. It can't wait. It has to move forward. There were a lot of changes to state law that happened between the last housing element cycle and this housing element cycle, and some transitions with staff that made it difficult for us. There were more than half of the jurisdictions that were late in drafting their housing element. It is our top priority. It is something that we are advancing beyond any other advancement of things, but it's a complicated project. There's a lot to it. We have submitted a draft to the state. We've gotten feedback, and we're working on updating as fast as we can that particular thing. So mandated programs move to the top of the list. And then annually we bring forward our list of long-range planning items and suggest what we think should be prioritized. So some of the things have the most value to be implemented in terms of creating more opportunities for housing or implementing general plan policies that had timelines associated with them, or things that we have grants and funding for that have deadlines. And then we seek feedback from the Planning Commission and the board on whether or not they agree that with our suggested priorities, things can be moved, and we can build within our staff the capacity to take up the next thing on our priority list once we complete the last thing.
Supervisor Church.
I just want to follow up a little bit on a couple of questions from Supervisor Daniels there, and you listed a whole range of unique circumstances that make this job hard, from the inland and the coastal to just housing costs and cost of living in particular around here, which all affects our ability to retain these employees, and there isn't a lot we can do about that kind of stuff. This isn't people coming into your department. They're coming in, fresh out of school or somewhere and wanting to figure, well, I'm going to slowly ease into a position. It's not really the not really the job for that, because you're going to be hit by the wall right at the beginning, which I'm sure gets discouraging for some people. Are there any particular ideas, any thoughts, possibilities to try to make that transition, for people coming easier, to perhaps things we could do to retain them? Obviously, we can't, we can't change the cost of living. We can't change the inland and coastal plans. I just wonder if there's any ideas there.
Yeah, lots of ideas. We've got a fantastic team that's here today. They work really hard, and I think in some ways enjoy the challenge. It's not always easy. There's definitely days that are not enjoyable, but overall, the folks who are here are doing an amazing job. They get a wide variety of experience, and what we can do is support them better through providing them with more resources, trying to make their jobs easier, trying to help them troubleshoot issues. We also have talked quite a bit about some opportunities with partnering with local educational institutions to help create more of a pipeline for planners who want to come and learn with Monterey County. We've talked about processes and improvements, things, streamlining efforts and other processes that'll help reduce their workload and make it easier. But they tend to band together to tackle the issues, and we want to support that. So giving them the support they need and having them feel involved in how we can improve our processes to make their jobs easier is something that's been an ongoing discussion.
Supervisor Askew.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the special workshop session here. I think this is a great way for us to kind of do deep dives into some of our most significant departments that are serving our community. We don't always get to go into this level of detail, so thank you for the time and for the focus. So one of the things we didn't really go into a lot of depth about today in this presentation is sort of the funding and the budget side of the department. Can you just briefly speak to funding side and some of the challenges that we face on that side of the house, which I know we're not really here to talk about, but I think it's relevant.
Yeah. So as long as I've been doing this, most of the time it's a difficult budget year. There's a few exceptions to that. So we are a revenue generating department, but we still rely partially on general fund. So we don't recuperate the entire amount that we need for salaries and benefits and all of our training budget and all of the things that come with operating the department. I think we have about a $9 million reliance on the general fund with a $21 million budget. So we're collecting about $11 million a year in permit revenue to help offset the work that we do. We're also looking for grant funding opportunities where we can, but there's certain things we can't recover our funds for. You know, when we're trying to create new positions, we actually just, as part of the consent item, did a reclassification of 2 positions to help address some shortfalls within our planning side and within our building plan check side. So I want to thank the board for that. We do have some other requests coming forward, and we have a fee study underway to help us identify how we can better balance the mandates we have to provide the service and the fees we collect from those who are using the service to help us in our budgeting. So a number of things in the works. We hope to bring that fee study forward to the board in the next few months. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. And I think it's relevant for me because as I think about, sort of all of the county responsibilities that we have and all of the different sort of audiences that we're serving, general fund is one of those limited buckets that we have available to us that we have this discretionary space. And so I do want to make sure that as we are looking at where we put discretionary revenue, that in the spaces, at least on the permit side, that we're effective and we're efficient in how we're processing permits, so that for our customers who are coming to us to get their permits processed, we're utilizing their permit fees in ways that are efficient, but also that we're not needing to spend significant general fund monies in places where we should be cost neutral, but then in spaces where we do need, like the housing element, for instance, or some of these other long-range planning spaces where there is no revenue generating option for that, at least in the immediate term, that's where it would make sense to use general fund monies to say, over the long run, housing element will ultimately generate additional property tax revenue and revenue generation broadly to the general fund. So that is where we would want to make sure. So I think it's an important thing that I'm paying attention to, and I think we all need to be paying attention to, recognizing that broadly across the county and across all of our departments, we do have other departments that have significant public benefit that have needs for general fund dollars as well to be spent. So with limited resources, just something I'm acutely aware of and want to make sure we include it as part of the thinking and planning. Also just want to call out, so many of the 4th district, for the residents that I'm representing, so many of our District 4 priorities for HCD really do fall into that long-range planning sort of bucket. We don't have a lot of unincorporated residents living in an incorporated county, and so the long-range planning group that you have working really does carry the weight for what we're looking on. So I really appreciate the way that you've been able to keep focus on some of those long-range planning projects, specifically the housing element and the subsequent policies and program implementation, getting our East Garrison Phase 3 housing specific plan finalized, getting that implementation moving, making sure that we get the parking plan that the board directed moving forward. I know that's going to require some more contracts to come before the board. Continue to make sure we're prioritizing the East Garrison Historic District, the redevelopment and implementation of that. The list that exists within HCD for the long-range planning projects is so long and so significant, and it's not lost on me that so often when we're here, we're adding to that list. So I would just encourage you to make sure that you're calling out and reminding us what's on that list and what gets bumped when we're asking you to add something new to that list moving forward. whether we're forgetting or whether it's just that chance to, remind us what's bumping off, I think is important. And then my last comment, as we're here, and we don't have a large audience listening to us today, and I think some of the comments we've made, I think the public is just kind of frustrated and has maybe given up a little bit on the fact that we can actually, do better and push our permits through. I'm married to an architect who, I heard often about the frustrations that he had coming to the county to push permits through, on some level, when we have staff who are new, young, with less experience, they're looking for the culture. They come into the department and they're looking around, trying to see how to, what is the culture here? How do we move things forward? There's a level of disempowerment, or maybe where if we can create the culture, we're going to get this done, and it's not that we're going to wait for the next person to push something forward, but if there's a way to create that culture to say, if you've got a client, a very customer service oriented space, you've got a client at the counter, rather than saying, okay, our next checkbox I've got to check is for you to schedule an appointment for the next thing. Instead of if the next person that you need to see is here, let me go to the back of the room, let's bring them out. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, when I went into the planning department, it's I'm not leaving here without a permit. And by the end of the day, they said, oh, we have to have a committee meeting for the next step. I said, well, is the people for the committee here? Why do we have to wait a month to schedule that? Can we just do it right here? So, somehow creating that, empowering our staff who are brand new, you are empowered to help move these things forward. I think sometimes it can be as simple as that as well. So I know we have incredible staff that are working really hard with limited resources, and just want to say, we see the work that's being done under challenging conditions, and appreciate it, and also appreciate the work that you're doing to try to figure out how we can do better, because our customers are expecting us to keep doing better. Thank you.
Supervisor.
Mr. Spencer, I just wanted to just weigh in. Even though all my district is in the city limits of Salinas, they go to the city for their permits. But I just wanted to speak to you and to all your staff to let you know how important the work that you all do is to our county. Whether it's building new housing, whether it's growing businesses within our county, or whether it's dealing with the worst situations, bad housing cases like we saw in Prunedale with 250 farm workers living in horrible conditions. Your office is involved in so many different issues that really make an impact on people's everyday lives. The list of all the cases and the ordinance that you and your team have worked on is commendable. And I know we've had one of these probably about 2-3 years ago, the last time we had one of these workshops about your office. So I think it's important for the public to see that we are engaged. You bring, this kind of workshop discussion every few years to see how can we improve customer service, right? And the challenges are ongoing, and it's not unique to your office, but every county in a planning department, they get staff, and sometimes they find greener pastures, or what seems like greener pastures elsewhere. And so the recruitment is ongoing. And so I know we are with you in wanting to retain highly trained, highly professional staff, because they help get the work done much faster when they have experience with our geography, with our county. But I know the biggest part is needing the resources to be able to hire and keep that staff. So I think I just want to convey a message that you're telling us your plan to improve service, but also at the same time to accomplish some of those things, it takes resources. And if there's an office that needs that support, this is one of those. And so I just wanted to just weigh in and acknowledge your work, but also the needs that are there that are tied with having some funding to make those goals a reality in your office. So that's all. Thanks.
All right. With that, let's go to the public, see if there's any public input. Invite folks on Zoom to use the raise hand function, *9 via landline, in order to be recognized.
So, good morning. I'm Eloise Shim, and I just wanted to thank this department for the noise ordinance aspect of it, because a lot of times I think people don't, they think, oh, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. I know for myself, I had a situation with it, and there were other people. And to just pass that noise ordinance and to have like a call center, people knowing that they can call somebody about that. And because you can't if you call the police, a lot of times they just say there's nothing we can do. So this, I just want to say I really do appreciate that aspect. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody via Zoom?
None via Zoom.
All right, we'll come back in room.
Morning, honorable supervisors, staff. Chris Steinbruner, local resident, business owner, landowner. First, I want to compliment staff on bringing this issue forward. It's so important, as many of you commented on. Congratulations, also, Mr. Spencer, for your semi-new position. I'd like to echo from a perspective of a resident the importance of the planning and permitting. It's how you get things done. It's how you get housing done. We can talk a lot about it, but this is where the rubber meets the road. And I'm not telling you something you don't know. I'm just echoing your comments. So appreciate that work. I am coming not only as a lifelong resident of Salinas, I'm also coming forward as my family has a property that we will be bringing to the county. Site number 1, actually, on your 6th cycle housing element, 95 acres. And the site, the element talks about 455 units. We think it's closer to 800 or 900 units, actually, at a density of 10 units to the acre. So we're very excited to bring this forward to the county in North Salinas and help everybody, help with the RENA numbers, help us. Also like to echo Supervisor Askew's comments that the funds spent on the planning and permitting do come back to the county. Permits, fees in the economic development activity of having more housed county residents. And I do believe from some sort of a business perspective, as you say, you have great people in the planning department, but they don't get bonuses for if they get it done in 2 meetings instead of 5, they don't get bonus. This is government, so they gotta you as leaders have to have their backs, right? Hey, maybe you can not check this box and it's okay, but if you're a planner, you got to have some cover, right? Some support from your leadership, and I think you know that. And lastly, the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, also with Monterey County Business Council, and we're working with the city of Salinas on their permit department. They actually have a study meeting today. I encourage you to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and others who work with this every day.
Thank you, Mr. Steinbruner.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Let's go to Zoom. I see a hand has been raised, so we'll go there.
Phone number ending 705.
705.
Yes, good morning, supervisors. Lorna Moffett here. In housing, I think it's very important to stress what building products we're using. There's just so much forest coming down for wood and building. And we need to really, really examine how we can reduce that, because trees are one of the most important levers we have against global warming. They actually create rainfall. And I think we're just ignoring too much that aspect. So I hope you start asking questions and saying what alternatives can be used. I know that there is tires being used for houses, bottle houses being used, cob houses, which is mud and straw, straw bale houses, which don't even burn. They smolder, but they don't burn. There's so many alternatives out there that you could say we have to start looking in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? All right. So no other hands up via Zoom. We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back. I want to thank you, Mr. Spencer, for your work. I know that there's been a lot put on your plate. I think the size of your staff has been diminished over the years, but the fact is that this board repeatedly from this dais and out in the community on the campaign trail and other places has committed to bringing housing. it doesn't happen without your department first standing there in place to make that happen, approving plans or individual homes or ADUs, remodels, all those pieces have to go through your department. And so the reason we're here today is because this board has prioritized the need for housing in order to face what many are calling the greatest civil rights challenge of our time, which is housing the population we have here in the state of California, here in the community of Monterey County. No matter what area, corner you may call home, the challenges are very real. And I agree with the perspective that was shared repeatedly that when we invest here, while it might hurt in the upfront in terms of a dollar amount, long term, the 1% that we get back on a new unit, a new ADU, ends up adding to that base that we need long term for Monterey County to be successful. Your staff is an incredible staff, and it's a young staff. And I look around the region and I look at the top of different departments for cities and other departments along the Central Coast, and they once had their footprint here, whether you're looking at Santa Clara County or the cities Carmel, Pacific Grove. Those are all people who once worked within our department and learned a lot because of the opportunities that we offer as a county in terms of the challenges that you laid out, coastal, inland, right, special district zones and historic districts, all these little challenges to getting things done give people a very strong toolkit as they go back out and perhaps look for work, or honestly, as I've heard, get recruited away due to the expertise that you develop when you're under the banner of Monterey County. So I want to thank you for bringing the challenges forward in the form of opportunity. And I think that that is our request of you today, at least from my perspective, is, you know, I want you to approach it from an angle of, as you make requests of us to make sure that your department is successful, understand that the majority of us up here understand that long-term, that's what we need for our communities in terms of housing, but also that we understand that the bottom line will make sense for us. And so as you come forward with answers to some of the challenges we've laid out before you, we encourage you to be creative, find new ways to bring solutions, find new ways to lean into some of the challenges that you've experienced in the past. But most importantly, continue to engage with community and the stakeholders, because as we heard, some feel burned out. They feel like they've tried and nothing has happened. But as you are successful, they're going to come back. They're going to bring you new challenges, new issues, and remaining customer oriented as you help them solve their issues will keep them doing the work that they do, which is going to help us solve the problem that we have here, which is building more housing for people who call Monterey County home. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for bringing this report forward. I got to work with you a little behind the scenes and bringing it forward. So I appreciate those conversations and look forward to seeing what you bring forward and on future opportunities to show us what you can do to bring this department up to what we need, not right. And I want to thank your staff, because I think your staff is doing an incredible job. It's a heavy lift, and we see that. I want them to know that we see that, and we expect a lot of them. But at the same time, we appreciate them and hope that they see opportunity in the challenges that are laid out before them as well. Because I think in cutting their teeth on those challenges, they're going to be some of the best experienced planners in the state of California. Anybody else on the dais before we wrap this item? Okay, then with that, thank you, Mr. Spencer. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, then we're going to go to other board matters, of which there are none. We're going to jump into our referrals. I see no new referrals. Is that right, Madam CAO? All right, given that, we're going to jump into our CAO comments.
Just very briefly acknowledging that this weekend will be Valentine's Day, and so want to take the time to thank our team across the county for the work that they do and the love that they have for this county and everything that they execute on behalf of the citizens of our county. So thank you.
All right. Let's see if there's any public input on our CAO's comments. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll proceed. Board comments, I'm going to start. You made eye contact. We're going left. Supervisor Daniels.
I have them today.
All right.
I'm ready for today.
So board comments, just a little update from District 5. On Saturday night, I had the opportunity to attend the Monterey Peninsula Community Gospel Choir, which was a part of Black History Month celebration that was hosted by Black Leaders and Allies Collaborative, and it was awesome, and it was incredibly uplifting, and it was at Monterey Peninsula College. And they are going to continue offering a series of events this month, and coming up this Saturday is the biographical drama called Shirley Chris Holm, played by Regina King, and it's at Lighthouse Cinemas at 6 p.m. I encourage everyone to attend. And then on Sunday night at the Sandbox in Sand City, there's going to be a performance, a theatrical performance written and performed by Rodney Gardner that will also be, I think, informative and entertaining. In terms of meetings that we've attended this week, last week I did on Thursday have my very first Carmel Valley Road Advisory Committee meeting. And I did attend also my very first See Monterey meeting. Also in the community, had a fire prevention meeting with Chief Nunez in the Carmel Highlands area, and had an opportunity to meet with Zoe Lofgren's staff for the first time, and discovered that there is some overlap on Tasahara Road and the community of Jamesburg. We share. So Zoe Lofgren does have a part of District 5 as well as all of your other districts. I thought I was left out, but she represents us as well, and I'm very excited. So with that, that's my update this week. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Supervisor Church.
Thank you. A couple of, I'm going to say, kind of fun things to talk about is I got to be a judge last week at the Elkhorn School Science Fair, and really great to see those young scientists. And I learned a few things, such as what a non-Newtonian fluid is, and probably learned more than a few things out of there. And so it was realized my science knowledge is not as deep as a sixth grader's. So. At least on some issues. So it was really it was enjoyable. It's something that they hold regularly, and I really felt great being a part of that. And for this week, I've been invited down to the Ag Commissioner's office on Wednesday for the 4-H Youth Program Development meeting, which is run by the young 4-Hers. And so I'm getting an opportunity to do a couple of things here with some of our young residents that is clearly enjoyable, productive, and I feel the experience I've had last week and I will have this week. There's some good leaders coming up here in this county. Thank you.
All right, Supervisor Alejo.
Thank you very much, everyone. Tomorrow, we want to invite the community to our first and probably the largest Immigration Rights Forum at Alisal High School. We expect probably between 800 to 1,000 people, because all 3 school districts have reached out to their parents, and we've also, the last 2 Sundays, with dozens of volunteers, we handed out, I think, at least 6,000 flyers and about 5,000 red cards, if not more. A total of, 14 Spanish language mass services at 4 different Catholic churches here in Salinas. Plus, Univision is continually promoting the event. So we hope it's a great turnout. People could watch it live on the County of Monterey's Facebook or YouTube channels. So we want to really thank all our partners. It will be raining tomorrow. That's the only thing, but we're going to make the best of it, So, nonetheless, I think people will still come out and be there to those that need the information. But I think the community will also come out just to support our immigrant community. So I want to really thank all our partners, all my staff, all of Chris's staff, Dr. Purnell at the Salinas Union High School District that have been really helping with all the small logistics that nobody ever sees, but are crucial for the program to run smoothly tomorrow. And also certainly thank all those volunteers who came and helped us the last 2 Sundays as well. Today we're going to Chris's neck of the woods because we're doing scouting the next forum at Vista Verde Middle School in Greenfield. So we're meeting with the superintendent there at 2 o'clock just to kind of work on the layout for that event, which is a week from tomorrow's event. So that's the next one. So we want to invite all our folks in South County to join Supervisor Lopez and I for that event at Vista Verde Middle School, starting at 5 o'clock in Greenfield. And lastly, after tomorrow, I got to go to our board of directors meeting for CSAC, so I'll be there on Thursday. And then CSAC is doing its first Challenge Awards dinner for counties that have done innovative things. And so that will be held tomorrow night in Sacramento as well. With that, I'll pass it.
All right, Supervisor Askew.
Thank you. I'll start by just inviting anyone who's available this afternoon to stop by our District 4 offices in Marina. We're having our, we usually do it at Christmas time, but Christmas time's so busy, so we moved it to Valentine's Day. So we'll be having a red, white, and jazz commissioner appreciation and just open house at our District 4 offices in Marina from 4 to 6 p.m. today. The offices will be open. We'll have some snacks and drinks and some music, and the entire District 4 team will be there to chat, just casual conversation with anyone who wants to stop by and share your priorities for the year with us. Some of our commissioners will be there as well and be able to talk about their work representing the district on our county commissions. Last week, we were able to host our first Wednesdays with Wendy on Zoom with Adriana Melgoza from the Watsonville Law Center, just chatting about some of the work that's happening to really the organizing that's happening here in Monterey County with the Know Your Rights workshops and the Solidarity Network and rapid response training for bystanders. It really is what's going to be necessary to keep our community organized and safe as we move forward. So I want to encourage those. And one of the things that did come up was, are these trainings, are these Know Your Rights trainings and rapid response trainings, are they just for people who are at risk of deportation or at risk of, who are undocumented? And the answer to that question was no. They really are for everyone in the community. And the more that we can provide education and the more that we can all understand what our rights are and the rights of our neighbors are, the better we can take care of our neighbors and collectively be prepared and keep each other safe. So the message back was to encourage everyone who has the opportunity to either review the information on the ACLU Know Your Rights websites, take a look at a red card and read it and memorize what's on that card, or attend a training so that you know and you can talk to your neighbors and you know what information is there in case you find yourself in a situation where you may need to have that information. It's collectively how we can look out for one another. And then on Sunday, we had legal bystander training in Seaside, packed house, more than people who had even registered. Really valuable information was shared there as well. And I want to thank the team of just dedicated volunteers who are working round the clock to organize community members. And then maybe on like a less positive comment, I do just want to acknowledge that there's a lot happening very quickly out of the federal government, and it continues to move very quickly. And I think as much as we're trying here at the county to remain focused on issues and actions that will affect county dollars and county services, there's so many other things happening that affect our residents. One that was brought to my attention last night that I just need to ask our legislative team to go on record with is this Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, the SAVE Act, which would require all Americans to prove their citizenship status with a passport or birth certificate that exactly matches their current legal name in order to register to vote. This legislation would effectively prevent all transgender individuals from the ability to register to vote, as well as 69 million American women who've taken their partner's last name, who no longer have the ability to have their current legal name match the name on their birth certificate, disenfranchising millions of Americans from the ability to vote. This has passed the House of Representatives and is moving on to the Senate. It's the kind of thing that makes me really nervous as we watch it continue down these paths. As much as I know that we've got our federal representatives fighting back against these types of actions, I just feel the need to call them out specifically to make it clear that we're not going to allow these things to happen quietly. So I just, if we could go on record with a statement, and I'm going to go on record speaking out against these things. I know we're in agreement here on this, but it's concerning. It's concerning. Thank you for the opportunity to make my comments.
Thank you, Supervisor Askew. I'll share that obviously Supervisor Alejo brought up the Immigration Rights Forum, Know Your Rights Forum, and we'll have the second on the 19th down in Greenfield. We'll be doing a site visit today to get that aligned. As I shared last week, we're also having the kickoff for the ATP funding distribution and projects down in San Lucas on Thursday. So invite the community to join us again at 6 p.m. on Thursday down in San Lucas. I also want to thank Fort Hunter Liggett. I know that we have Colonel Trotter, who's been an amazing ally for us down in southern Monterey County, and he is coming into the end of his time here in the next few months at Fort Hunter Liggett as he heads back to the East Coast to Fort Liberty. So we thank him for everything he's contributing, including the partnership on Operation Santa, which has brought so much joy. I had the opportunity to present his team the cover of the Rustler last week. It was a beautiful Santa in his camo with getting a hug from a little girl with pure magic on her face. So it was nice to be able to hand that over in person to them and thank them for their contributions. I also want to share that later this month, I may have to miss the meeting on the 25th for a trip back to DC with RCRC to do some work on the lobbying front, given everything that's happening back there. And so I want to thank my colleagues for supporting me in taking on that challenge. And lastly, I believe I'll be in Sacramento next week with CSAC doing their new supervisors training. I'll be a professor for a day, so that'll be fun. I look forward to that opportunity and thank their team for bringing me on board for that. And with that, I'll wrap my comments and turn to our county council to see if there's anything to report out of closed session.
No reportable action from closed session.
All right, seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you all for a good meeting.